Hey all! The War Within beta has been out for a while now, and since we've gone through a few rounds of class reworks and tuning passes, now feels like the right time for an update on what casting Mistweaver is looking like in the next expansion. At this point in time, I'm going to say Conduit of the Celestials is the only real hero talent tree for a casting Mistweaver. I briefly tested Master of Harmony, and without going into too much detail, it feels so deliberately designed for fist weaving that I just can't imagine a pure caster choosing it in any situation. The Celestials tree has a lot of procs and bonuses that activate as we just do our normal rotation of spells. While we do have a limited amount of control over how and when we trigger these effects, it's generally not worth micromanaging, and the passives are also really strong. Celestial Conduit is a moderately powerful healing CD that helps fill the time between Yu'lon casts, but depending on what patterns of damage we're supposed to heal through, it can be tacked on after a few enveloping mists or at the end of a Yu'lon ramp to finish with a few seconds of massively amplified healing, so it's very flexible. Now this is the raid build I've been playing during testing, and there's definitely a lot more decision space here than there was in Dragonflight. I won't always need improved detox, an interrupt, an enrage soothe, but the alternatives don't have a lot of impact, so it's easier to just keep all that basic utility and just make changes whenever it's needed. For the final point, I could easily drop Lighter Than Air and grab some other utility if I wanted to, like one of the Transcendence modifiers, Crashing Momentum, Swift Art, or even Windwalking. It's really just whatever feels best in a situation, and there's a lot of room for customization. As for the spec tree, most of it is pretty standard, just no fist weaving talents. I go for a stronger, more frequently available Life Cocoon, made even more frequent by Heart of the Jade Serpent procs. I should point out that the Celestials tree assumes we're taking Shaloon's Gift, since we only get half as many Heart procs without it, but that shouldn't change anything, since we're generally starting our healing ramp with Shaloon to proc one of Xiaohao's lessons anyways. Finally, even though they've just nerfed Lotus Infusion from 15% to 8%, I still think it's the right call for a raid build since we want Renewing Mist jumping as much as possible to proc talents like Dancing Mists and Zen Pulse, and to feed into the extra healing from Tear of Morning. For my Dungeon and Mythic Plus build, I make a few changes, but this is still assuming that I won't be doing much damage, so I do pass up a lot of the standard DPS talents. In the class tree, I replace Bounding Agility with Tiger Tail Sweep, trading in that extra bit of roll distance for a wider leg sweep. Unlike my raid build, the last point in my class tree for my dungeon build is actually a pretty tough decision, only because I really like Clash. It's extremely niche, but it works as a very minor interrupt, a makeshift grip, or a gap-closing segue into short-range CC if I'm too far away from my target. I'd have to give up either Flow of Chi, Fatal Touch, or Strength of Spirit if I wanted to get it, but that's just how it works. I could even drop one of these points to pick up Lighter Than Air, though I can't really think of any situations in the Season 1 dungeon pool where a roll into double jump dash would be necessary or useful. In the spec tree, there's a few key differences. I take Veil of Pride for more frequent access to Shaloon's Gift, and I give up Uplifted Spirits to put a point in Legacy of Wisdom, which makes Shaloon a 5-target, full group heal. Since Renewing Mist upkeep is much easier in a small group, I take Chi Harmony instead of Lotus Infusion so I can do more single-target healing, especially on the tank. This bakes our 2-piece tier bonus from Amirdrasil into Renewing Mist, and the only downside is that the first 8 seconds of its duration, it cannot jump to a new target. In what's probably my most controversial talent pick, I'm back to taking Mending Proliferation over Unison in dungeons, even though both are great choices. I can actually see this being more effective once we have our Season 1 4-piece bonus, which allows us to extend each enveloping mist by up to 4 seconds. But the extra multiplier from Mending Proliferation is already so noticeable on its own that when it jumps to a player who already has enveloping mist and or Chi Harmony, the combined multipliers make for some massive healing spikes. Moving on to stat priority, I tend to gear for raiding first, but I try and maintain stats that also work for dungeons. For raiding, I aim for at least 25% haste, then crit, then verse. Crit means a lot for a casting Mistweaver, not just for crit-based talents like Uplifted Spirits, but for generating stacks of Mana Tea. If I have options, I'll stack haste even higher for Mythic Plus, but that's mostly to help my response time. Mastery is still practically a dead stat in raids, but for dungeons, or if it's a massive item level upgrade, I'll wear the occasional haste mastery or crit mastery piece if it's all I've got. Before I wrap up this video, I want to point out that they've actually gotten rid of our ability to go into a fight with 20 seconds of the mana tea buff. We used to be able to bypass the stack reset at the start of an encounter by starting a full channel just before the pull, which meant reduced costs for a whole 20 seconds of the fight. So that sucks, but honestly it was exhausting having to build stacks between every pull on every boss, so I won't say I miss it. On the bright side, we can still put a 50 stack life cocoon on the tank just before each pull, which is amazing against bosses like Kaiveza, who do their tank buster right away. And that's all I've got for this update. I don't want to get too into the weeds while we've still got a couple months for potential class reworks and tuning passes, but I'm feeling really good about casting Mistweaver, and judging by the comments I've been reading lately, there's a lot more positivity surrounding the playstyle than there used to be. It's come a long way in the right direction over the course of Dragonflight, and the War Within seems to be continuing that trend, which is great news. Until next time, I hope this has been informative, useful, or at the very least a little bit interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.